I'm just talking and now I can be heard. All right. Sorry. I had muted I had muted myself, and apparently some of the pre-conversation was somehow going out. I'm not sure how. Oh, now I know what it was. Okay. All right. Well, anyway, here's this beautiful chart that Tuija has been working on with a number of the others, and it is, of course, Master DK's chart. Um, but it's a little bit adapted, and we are going to go on and do different versions of it. You'll notice in this chart, everybody, that the causal body of the solar logos, I keep on thinking, well, it's kind of the heart of the sun, as we call it. It's very small compared to the original chart. And the reason that is it is on the first subplane of the cosmic mental plane. So we tried to do that in a more exact manner. But we're going to have a lot of additions here, which will give us that more synthetic look. And so we'll be working on these, and it's quite exacting work, and we'll see what we add with adaptation 1, adaptation 2, adaptation 3, and so forth. We'll include as many things as we can. I mean, to give you an idea where this goes, these 7 rishis of the Great Bear, they are not so much involved with the cosmic Buddhic plane as they are with the cosmic Atmic plane, and DK says so. So we're going to be working, on getting some of those things more exact and try to understand the reason why he extended them down to the cosmic Buddhic plane and so forth. Well, I know all of this is a lot of cosmology, and you may be wondering, well, why deal with cosmology? But there are wonderful analogies that are possible to make everything clearer in our own world. So some of these charts will be made available in a photographed condition. So basically, there are not going to be changes in them other than the ones that we are making. And Tuija will let us know when that comes about. Okay. Well, look, there are quite a few of us here today, and I just want to welcome Alexandra and Anne and Christus and Ann Parker and Anne Marie and Ario and Barbara, Bianca, Carl, Catherine, Clesia, Deborah, Frederick, whoop, 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 Gregory, Gretchen, Jan, Jean-Pierre, Joan and John and Yopie and Karen and Catherine and Keith and Laura, Lori, Margot, Marianne, Marissa, Mariut, Michael, Risto, Sheldon, Tuija's there in a couple of places, and Yvonne and Zenaidi. And BL is helping us, making sure we don't get into too much trouble here. I was left on my own this morning without the without the usual backup, and I hope it all came out okay. Let's just have a little alignment, and then we will, basically what we're doing here is we are reading Glamour of World Problems straight through. Now we've picked and chosen various sections that have kept us going these past couple of years, however long we've been doing this. But now we're going to read the book straight through. And when you tune in for the Reappearance of the Christ meditation on the Ask program, Tuija is reading the Reappearance of the Christ straight through. And when it comes to the Soul of Nations meditation, which is on Saturdays, then we are attempting to read the Destiny of the Nations straight through. Basically, what you're going to be seeing more and more of is that we're going to try to review these books in a sort of study group fashion over the next 7 years. So all of us have the chance to assimilate as much as may be and apply as much as we can of the great teaching, so that when Master DK begins his work again around the year 2025, that's what he says, 2025, the third portion of this teaching will go forth. We call it the third installment. He can assess how much we have managed to assimilate and maybe judge what we can possibly use and incorporate in the years that he will be giving this third installment of the teaching during the 21st century. Now, remember what H.P. Blavatsky said, basically that occultism, as she called it, must win the day by the end of the 21st century. I don't know what she means by win the day, but it certainly has to be a far more accepted thought form, the ageless wisdom far more broadly and deeply accepted than it is at this time. So all of our efforts are towards that, which is preparing the way for the reappearance of the Christ, obviously. And until the year 2117, we're still dealing with the Piscean influence. After that, it'll be pretty pure Aquarianism, and then maybe we can begin to look for the true externalization of the hierarchy, followed by the reappearance of the Christ. Okay, let's have a little alignment, friends. We come together in the silence, geographically disparate in many places, but one in our fusing consciousness. And we are attempting to present for hierarchy a group aura, a group instrument upon which the higher energies can play and through which some small aspect of the divine plan can come through and be manifest. And so, with that objective in mind, let us sound the great invocation together, setting the tone, this mantra for the new age, this word of power, mantra of light and power, as it's called, straight from Shambhala. We'll sound this together. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Oh. 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 Okay, so Olivia, Tuija, and I want to welcome you all. And there are, ever since I sort of called out everybody's first name, we've had a few more joining us. So welcome to all of you if you've just come in. Okay. Now, let's see where we are here. I'm going to continue our reading. And let's see, all I have to do is find it. There it is. Whoop. Okay. And this is our academic reading number 17, and it's the 77th Dissipation of Glamour webinar. So we've been going at this for quite a while. And this morning, as some of you know, we did the Science of Triangles work. Fantastic cosmological view of the origin of the triangles of light and love and the will to good. So there's nothing wrong with a little cosmology because it gives you the big picture and a much greater sense of proportion. And that sense of proportion is, it's all about humility, really, an adjusted sense of right proportion. So, in fact, when we have humility, which is all about estimating the size and importance of the various factors in the universe, we have a better chance of expressing harmlessness, which is one of the great goals and one of the great disciplines. So, as I'm reading this, I don't know how far I'll get or how far I'll go, just as a feeling thing. And just make notes as we go along, what you might like to ask about, say something about, discuss, or any matter in occultism in general. Because after all, everything is related to everything else. And when we're dealing with this great sphere of knowledge that Master DK has presented to us, we can go anywhere and find any other point. So everything is related, and there's nothing that's not related. You can find always the relation. It's a very Mercurian thing to say, but we do have to remember how closely Master DK is associated with Mercury, just as the Buddha is, and I would say the Christ and Master KH more with Venus. So now this is we've been discussing illusion, and we've been discussing glamour. The last several programs have been on that, and so now we go on to different perspectives on the idea of Maya. Now, I have said before that you can take any one of those words, Maya, glamour, and illusion, and it can mean the whole thing. Everyone can include the other two. The universe is, in a way, the great Maha Maya. And it's also called, in a way, the great illusion, though the word illusion becomes more specific and relates to the mind. And glamour, as well, has a way of extending itself to include both illusion and Maya. I mean, here's a book about glamour, and we are discussing illusion and Maya. It'll be very interesting when we deal with the kinds of initiations which are required to combat these factors, the devitalization of Maya because it is etheric, and the dispelling of illusion because it requires the intuition to do that. So Maya, in this perspective, is the result of both glamour and illusion. It connotes when present, and this is one way of looking at it, okay? It connotes when present an integrated personality, and therefore the capacity to tune in on mental illusion and astral glamour. Now, an integrated personality does not necessarily mean a soul infused personality. We do reach a point of pretty solid personality integrity, integration, before we actually appropriate the soul energy to any significant extent. Where this condition is found, the problem of the disciple is one of the greatest in the world. That's quite a statement from Master DK, who is not given to overstatement. If anything, he's rather reserved. What constitutes the prime difficulty of any disciple, and let us assume we are all disciples in training, is the fact that the battleground of his life, after all, we're a member of the fourth kingdom, the battling kingdom, the battleground of his life involves every aspect of his nature. And that sounds very scorpionic, let Maya flourish and deception rule. That is sort of the evolutionary mantram of the person on their way in Scorpio, but it's not the high spiritual mantram. So Mercury, Scorpio, these are all factors contributing to the earlier expression of Maya involving the integrated personality, which is not yet spiritual. So we're going to always have a fight on our hands. A lot of people say, well, you don't have to fight and all that. But, Master DK said, see that you battle. He was right in the middle of World War II, and he was trying to encourage his students to take side, and says, see that you battle. Being members of the fourth kingdom of nature, ruled as monads by Scorpio, we really have no choice because the conflict with duality is a scorpionic factor. So anyway, in this way of viewing Maya, the whole man is involved. Now he says technically. Now we don't always speak technically. Sometimes we speak generally, and DK himself often speaks simply generally. Technically, he says the word Maya should only be used in two cases. In reference to the united glamour illusion to which a man who is an integrated personality responds, and what happens here, he brings, he brings it right down, if I could only spell, down onto the physical plane. Oop, there, maybe that's it. He brings it right down onto the physical plane, and we learn about the Scorpio energy, which has so much to do with Maya and deception that it really forces the disciple to work things out on the physical plane and prove himself over and over again on the physical plane and not just on the higher planes. So this is a rather later view of Maya as regards the integrated personality. And then Maya can be used technically in speaking of the limitations of the planetary logos of our planet. And what are the problems there? He is personality centered and is still, well, we would call it in the Lemurian stage. I know that sounds rather strange, but he is still a first degree initiate and not yet a cosmic initiate of the second degree. And, when will that happen? Well, time for a great being like the planetary logos is much expanded compared to our sense of time, and maybe at the judgment day, when there is a banishing of many of the unfit to other locales within our planetary system, maybe that will be the time for the cosmic initiation to be taken. It'll be sort of a 5 and 2, a 5 minor and a 2 major. But, Master DK also calls Maya by the interesting name, and you've heard me say it before, that vital, unthinking, emotional mess. So that suggests kind of an earlier stage of the application of the word Maya. And here's the quote from Glamour. We'll be running into it. The problem of Maya is really the same as the above, plus the intense activity produced when both glamour and illusion are realized on etheric levels. So we have an etheric barrier called the veil of impulsion. Now that just sounds like an energy comes along and you just do something without even thinking about what it is or on the basis of your habit nature. And so we have to overcome this chaos of mindless impulsion, which he calls he calls it this way: it is that vital, unthinking emotional mess. Now think about those words. He's got all the aspects of the personality into it. He's got the vitality of the etheric body. He's got the thinking or unthinkingness of the mental body and the emotional body, all working out on the etheric level. It is that vital, unthinking emotional mess, just chaos on the physical plane. And you can understand how the brothers of form and darkness and obstruction, they really want to present us with a chaotic environment so we lose our way. And one of the major methods that they work through is etheric, creating chaos. And we have to somehow use the seventh ray to counter that and bring in order. I'm not saying I'm the best example, but with all of those seventh ray types coming in, there will be the countering of the chaos. So anyway, it is that vital, unthinking, emotional mess. Yes, brother of old, that is the word I seek to use, in which the majority of human beings seem to live. So it's not a very happy assessment here, because he talks about the majority, and the majority are glamored as well, and maybe not yet subject to illusion because the mind has not developed to that point. But you can see that people like ourselves who are trying to clear ourselves of the Maya, the glamour, and the illusion have our hands full. Once we manage with ourselves, then we have to think about the world from this perspective, and hopefully our own problems will not get in the way. Although you have to be very watchful, because it's very easy not to see the ways in which we are glamored or subject to the misinterpretations of illusion, or subject just to chaotic action which doesn't really lead anywhere of value. In the above remarks, I've given you much food for thought, not only as regards your own personal problems, for all of you are subject to these conditions. And remember, he is talking to his group, who is selected, these 9 people, and they have experience. And so if they are subject to these conditions, then, well, probably we are too, aren't we? But I have also indicated to you what is the nature of glamour. When I think of glamour, I always think of distortion. I think of that which is improperly assessed as to its true magnitude, its greatness, its smallness. I think everything is out of proportion, and things are not seen in their true light relative to each other. So, we come along and we exaggerate a minor point and we make it our major point, or we take a small point or something that's really important and we make it tiny and it doesn't have the power that it should. So it's a lack of the sense of proportion. And Libra and proportion and the fifth ray and all that will help to cure the tendency towards glamour. So he's indicated to us what is the nature of glamour. The word is used in all esoteric books and teaching to cover the conditions which are differentiated under the words Maya, illusion, and glamour itself. So there is the general sense in which glamour is used, and all three of them are coming under the general term glamour. Basically, truth does not appear to our perception when we are subject to the distorting influence of glamour. We just get it wrong, and in terms of our desire nature, we go after things that just are not worthwhile, and we fail to pursue what is really of value. Later he says, I will give you some teaching on the causes of glamour and the method of its dissipation. We're familiar. We've done a little bit of that. But I have given you here enough for the present, for it is my desire that you ponder upon these ideas during the next few months and learn somewhat of the significance of these words, which you so lightly use. Little rebuke there. It's easy to be glib with the esoteric language, easy to be glib and not really go deeply enough into what a factor really is. So we just can't throw terms around. We have to have a deeply weighted sense of what these terms really mean, and from our own experience would be best, really, having been up against it, as it were, seeing what it happens, recognizing it, and somehow curing it. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Watch yourselves. Well, that's the attitude of the observer, right? We are not what we see, really. We stand at another position, the position, let us say, of the soul in incarnation, or even one day the soul on its own plane when we can focus in the causal body. Watch yourselves and your daily life with discrimination. Now, there we have something on the highest level of the concrete mental plane, the power or the city called discrimination. And here, something of the fifth ray is coming into play. Watch yourselves and your daily life with discrimination so that you learn to distinguish between glamour, illusion, and Maya. So obviously, the fifth ray is involved in making these distinctions. Now, at the Ajna Center, at first, it's going to be Venus and the fifth ray. And that's where we can shed light upon the distinctions between things. Now, discernment is another matter. And, well, I'm not sure I can get there from where I am right now. Let's see if I can get there. I've got just loads of stuff here. By the way, I was talking to somebody about the AAB extracts that we have. And it's a big, I don't know, it's got like a lot of megabytes. And you may be interested in that. I think it's on the Makara website. My friend and colleague was telling me. So if you're interested in these deep references, and lots of them too, you can find it on the Makara website. And later we'll see if we can make it even more generally available. So actually what I'm going to do here is go into something else, and I'm going to go over here to, this is a sort of a compendium that Keith Bailey in AUM made. He put this material together, and it's very useful. And here is discernment. See, discrimination tells the differences between things. Now, that is found on the fourth subplane of the mental plane. But spiritual discernment is different. In all the mass of perceptions, one looks behind them, as it were, from the first level, or third level of the higher mind, and sees the spiritual pattern behind the obvious. And that's different from discrimination. So then, if I can joke about it, try to discriminate between discrimination and discernment, because discernment is actually a higher type of capacity, and discernment is related to what we call spiritual reading, meaning that all things are symbols and you can see behind the obvious into the divine pattern behind that which is obvious. All right, going on. So anyway, the fifth ray is involved, and see, he's giving us a little task here, basically. See if you can discover the form which your individual dweller on the threshold is likely to assume as you come in contact or come in conflict with it. You're going to be fighting it out with some kind of combination of Maya, glamour, and illusion, which is your personality opposition to that which lies behind the door of initiation. We all have that experience, and on the burning ground, some of this is resolved. There are a number of burning grounds, and different aspects of your nature are liberated on each burning ground. But, what does your dweller look like? And maybe we don't even really see it in its entirety until maybe we're approaching the third initiation. I joke sometimes and I say, well, we see a fang here and a tooth there and a claw there, but maybe we don't get to see the whole thing, what it really looks like. So what's our major opposition coming out of our own personality, which prevents us from really having a spiritualized personality? Now, if after the second initiation we go off into the desert like Jesus did, or the Christ, or both, and we lose the battle, and we give in to our dweller instead of conquering it and going on the real path of initiation, then we become the first ray destroyer of souls, the second ray deluder of souls, leading people astray, or the third ray manipulator of souls, and we don't want to become any of those things. So, just look for a second, just a little, this is, of course, you'd want to do this as a meditation. This is just a moment of silence. But what is the form that your dweller takes, and which vehicle perhaps throws up the greatest problem there? Sometimes when I look at this in my own case, I say, well, I have a fourth ray personality, kind of, more or less. And the thing that the fourth ray type has to develop is serenity. I'm always, as a person, charging forward, and Aries type, and fighting it out and doing all that kind of thing. Where is serenity? And I say, well, okay, if I could deal with that dweller, then more serenity would appear in my life, and more proper reception, and less fluctuation of the waves on the water, and more reflection of the great sun instead of a lot of divided images. Each one of us will have something, according to our personality ray, probably that is being thrown up in our face and preventing a deeper connection with ourselves as a soul. So, think about it, meditate on it, and see what you come up with. Anyway, uh, see if you can discover the form which your dweller is likely to assume as you come into conflict with it. And of course, in a way, you should be in conflict with it, given our usual stage of uh, evolution. DK says, look, if you're not having a crisis, why aren't you having a crisis? You're a member of the fourth kingdom here, so have a good crisis, overcome it, and step into greater certainty of the spirit and soul. And if you do the same for your group brothers and the immediate world need, you will lose no time in the work of your astral clarification and mental release. That's what we're after here. And maybe if we take the second initiation, we will be a long way towards astral clarification. And if we stop with the misinterpretations that the mental body presents to us, and we're thinking just like everybody else, and these great thought forms are overpowering our mind, then we will achieve real mental independence and real mental release. So I would ask you, he says, to study these instructions with peculiar care, for I am taking the time and trouble these busy days. It's the run up to World War II, right? To meet your need and to bring as much light as I can without infringing your free will to meet your need and clear your course to service. So it's a great service that Master Decay was offering to his students at the time and to us who are his students in later times and who have a great advantage of having all these books, really in front of us. So there's, lots to consider there. I don't want to go too far. Well, okay, all right. I'll do a little more, just a little more. This is about the aura, which he says we completely misunderstand. I would suggest also that you find out, he's giving them an assignment, not all of his students took his assignments carefully, and then later he said, well, I know who you are, Okay, I would suggest also that you find out all you can anent the much misunderstood subject of the aura. Much misunderstood. Okay. Search out what is said in my books and in the writings extant in any good occult library, and I seek no copying out of paragraphs, but a formulation of your knowledge. Okay, so a number of students, maybe in the Arcane School, University of Seven Rays, Moria Federation, they copy the paragraphs and then put them down as their writing. But it's fine, read the paragraphs and all that, but basically to advance, we have to have our own thoughts presented, even though they don't compare in quality with Master DK's thoughts. It doesn't make any difference. At least they belong to us, and we are exercising our faculties. So he says, I seek no copying out of paragraphs, but a formulation of your knowledge, so that you can answer clearly questions which might be asked. The following three questions are basic, so think about those for a minute. What is the aura, and how does it come into existence? Whatever you want to come up with there. It has a lot to do with radiation, and it has a lot to do with releasing the light potential of the matter, which in a sense is dark matter within our system. But, when Vulcan, the undiscovered planet here, releases its full power, it also releases the light potential, and Mars is no longer obscuring it. This is from the astrological perspective. How can the aura be made the medium of light, and the light which should shine through it be intensified? And this has everything to do with our meditation and service and our physical habits and so forth. It has to do with our striving, because striving is not just an emotional attitude. It's a, how does DK put it? Something like this: a scientific mode of elevation. Okay, so it's a transmutation. Through transmutation, the aura can become a medium of light. Transmutation is an elevation of the vibratory frequency and quality of the atoms and structures in our nature. So it's a keying up, As we transmute, we key up, and there's more revelation of the light coming from innately within us. Actually, we are all a great light. If you were to reveal the monad for what it is, and that monad is found at the very center of the jewel in the lotus, it's a great light. And with respect to Shambhala, where the monad has its residence, it is called, that light is called unfettered enlightenment. It's a great name. And it just means unchained light, liberated light. So within each one of us is that huge light awaiting liberation, but right now, opaque factors prevent the radiation of the great light which we really have. And before long, with under the right type of training, we can become translucent. The light can pass through somewhat, and then eventually transparent. The light can pass through totally. And then number three, this is a good one. Have you noticed what is the effect which your own individual aura is making upon your environment? And how can you improve that effect? Well, there's different auric factors. There are those that relate to the personality, but there are also those that relate to the causal body. And the way DK describes that, eventually, a totally brilliant display of light and color, and I suppose sound, are all involved in the radiation of a fully unfolded causal body. So that's our higher self, and we want that kind of radiation to help our environment. It's said about service that it's the spontaneous, how does it say, spontaneous expression of soul quality, something of that nature. I mean, it's not like I'm trying to serve and I'm trying to serve. We serve by what we are. And what we are is either an auric blessing or maybe the opposite. So we have to really improve the instrument and develop the causal body for that kind of radiation, which is really helpful in the environment, to take place. So this will enable you to make practical application of that which I seek to teach you. And this is a good statement. I like this. Forget not that as you look out upon the world and your immediate environment, that you look out through your aura and have therefore to deal with glamour and illusion. Okay, so I guess what he's saying is we do not see the world as it is, but distorted by the condition of our mental body and our astral body, um, and by the personality in general. So we have to make sure, he had one of his students visualize something. This man was always subject to glamour, and he said, okay, just imagine you're in a dark room. There's just this little window. I want you to clean your window. It's very dirty. And the man worked at cleaning his window. He was a third-ray, sixth-ray type. He'll be mentioned here in a little while. And he improved somewhat, and then the window would fog over and become dirty again. And Master DK would tell him about that he was, victim of the glamour in which he perpetually walked. So, we're always cleaning the windows of perception. And, there was an Aldous Huxley book called The Doors of Perception. It had a lot to do with drug-induced states, but it can be applied to occultism, which is not drug-induced. It has to do with whether we see the world, other people, even the interior worlds with clarity, or how much we distort what we see, even unknown to ourselves. So that's where I'm going to stop on this one. And this will be the end of Dissipation of Glamour Initiative. And I guess it's number 77. And it was academic, I forget what I called it. Academic reading number 15. Was it 15? I'll find out in a second. I always hate to go back, but that's what. No, it's number 16. Number 17, in fact. Oh, number 17. Okay, then we have to know where we go on to. Number 17, and today is the 6th of July, 18, and then we'll have the beginning next week of Dissipation of Glamour Initiative number 78, and the academic reading number 18. And it looks like it's going to be on the 13th of July. And we hope, if ever Tuija and I are traveling, and it may be even the case tomorrow, I'm not sure, we'll have to consult here. Not tomorrow, but Sunday. And we can't do a program, we'll do our best to let you know, okay? Right, so there we are. And I'll try to make these things a little smaller so we can see them more under the eye, as it were. And, there's a fair amount here. And let's see. And we'll make it, okay, 10. 10 we'll have to do. And now for your thoughts, your questions, your statements, whatever. This is our time to have a little discussion, either about this material, if you found something in this material that is interesting you and worth your consideration, or about occultism in general, right? So now I'm looking for those who may wish to speak, and Deborah, looks like you are up, so go ahead, Deborah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, indeed. Thank you.
Great. My question is about our challenges in our health. Are those a manifestation of Maya? Because when I think of my health challenges like weakness or low energy, I think of Maya, but of course there's also glamour and illusion involved in it.
In esoteric healing, he seems to say, of course, I'm not the esoteric healer, but we do have a couple of people here who are really into it. Maybe they want to address that. The etheric conditions and the miasmas found there are very important in the health conditions, but it's oftentimes our emotional states which descend into the etheric and cause further problems, and not so much at this time of life the mental illusory states. So my impression is it's a combination of the condition of the astral body, which can cause a lot of havoc as it falls into the etheric body and causes congestions, blockages. If you read the laws of healing, you'll see that if there's a free flow of the energy of the soul, then there will not be the health problems, but these other conditions, especially at this time of history, emotional states, as they descend into the etheric, this seems to be the problem. But would any of our healing inclined people and practitioners of that like to address that further? You're most welcome to do so if you like, or if you don't like. But anyway, it's not the mind, and we cannot leave the emotional condition out of it. Obviously, there are things you can do with your etheric body, and DK gives us a lot of hints in Letters on Occult Meditation about how to take care of the body and the etheric body, but the emotional states are causing a lot of problems, especially, with some of the real problem diseases of cancer in the heart and things of that nature. And the devitalization, he has certain exercises using the spleen to revitalize the body. So maybe look up in discipleship books the spleen and orange light, and he has you stand before a window and breathe in a certain way to increase vitalization. Is there any person that would like to address this further that may be involved in the healing arts? Okay. Well, you can always come in at any point and add to that. Anything else along that line, Deborah?
Thank you. That was very helpful.
Okay, we can clean this up, and we can get out of our own way, and we can find a way through service, oftentimes, and heartfelt service, to make a lot of clearings so that the circulation occurs in the way it should, and the blockages. See, basically, our problem is blockage or irritation, overstimulation. That's why they call Mars and Saturn the two malefic planets. Saturn is responsible for the shutting down of the flow, and Mars is responsible for inflammation. Now, on either side, we have problems, and we have to somehow get those under control. And the heart and service and love energy, when really genuine, is and when it's really flowing, and the soul contact is really flowing through us, um, that's a big help with all of these malaises, I would say. Look, I'm not the esoteric healer. That's maybe the one area, in DK's work that I really need work on. He says, when you are, he divided the groups, the first three groups, in different ways. He says that the telepathic communicators, they have a predominantly mental bias. There are the dissipators of glamour, or what you call the trained observers, and they have to have a lot of the sixth ray because they work on the emotional plane. And then there are the esoteric healers, or the healers, and he says they have to have an orientation towards the physical plane because that's where they have to do a lot of work. Now, the interesting thing is, it's not just etheric physical healing that he lists as the province of the healers. He says there's emotional healing through blessing, and there is mental healing through right perspective or philosophy or the seeing of the truth. Now, maybe not so many diseases right now are caused by our mentality. Among certain people, maybe they are. It's mostly on the emotional and etheric levels that presently a disease is the problem. But we'll get through it, and by the time we're initiates of the third degree, okay, then you'll be pretty well having dispelled any tendency towards disease. So work on, work forward. Okay. All right. Now, let's see now. Yeah, I had, okay. Who else? Okay, Michael, there you go. Michael Stacy. Go ahead, Michael.
Yes. With emotional issues, it's not necessarily glamour per se. And I think we need to begin to distinguish between feelings and emotions for one thing, because those can be quite different. The Tibetan did give a figure of about 90%, as I recall, of illness is a result of emotional stuff or feeling stuff and etheric. Now, he didn't differentiate between etheric and emotional. My interpretation on that is there's so much of the astral energies coming into the etheric body that it becomes difficult to distinguish between which is which.
I think that's correct. Somewhere in Dyna 2, and you know what I'd like to do if someone can remind me, because I'm liable to forget. There's a fantastic section of about maybe 2 pages, where he does a very astute discrimination between emotion and feeling with regard to the condition of the astral body. And I think in the kinds of studies that we are dealing with, where it's important, I think, to have some 6-ray, at least there wasn't a single individual in that glamour group or dissipation group that didn't have a strong 6-ray. They all had it. It put them in rapport with the solar plexus of humanity, and for that particular seed group, head, heart, solar plexus, just like the religious seed group, head, heart, solar plexus. So that is the inclination, but if we can, and you were hinting at this, really discriminate between feeling and the response that comes with the emotional trigger following the feeling or does not come, then I think we'll head into some real clarification. So I would like to find that and read that with the group. I don't want to go looking for it right now because I think I might just get lost at the moment, but it's a really good one, and I think it's Discipleship in the New Age, Volume 2. If somebody well, I don't want to get into that right now, okay? But because it really requires a lot of attention in an academic sense, and we'll deal with it. If someone, maybe BL, if you can remind me, or Tuija or something, I hope I remember it, that's all, because it's really worthwhile in light of what you're bringing up at this point. Now, yeah, go ahead, Michael. Go ahead.
Yeah, something that I found of very much interest is the idea that the aura contains, it becomes like a ring past knot of all our glamours and illusions. And as we're looking through it, it's all colored by those distortions. And we don't see the world as it truly is.
Yeah, that you're dealing factually there, and the thing about color, we say, oh, we live a colorful life, and the Ray 4 loves all the colors and all that, but he says the color is a veil, and it's a veil upon greater revelation, which comes with the synthetic white light. So color represents quality, it represents sound, but its original meaning is to veil something. And let's see, there's a Shelley poem, and I probably always misquote it, but let's see, life like a dome of many colored glass stains the white radiance of eternity. Something like that. And the white radiance of eternity is what's really there, and the colors are the various veils upon the fullness of that synthetic whiteness. Someone can look up the exact quote. I'm pretty close there. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, as we do as the Tibetan asked his disciple to do, to clean the window, what we end up with is a clear aura, which, like a clear mirror, a clear glass, a clear pool, reflecting the Buddhic plane.
Mm-hmm. So that would be transparency. That would be eventually.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
it allows us to go from aspiration to from desire, aspiration, to love, which is Buddhic.
Yes, and to pure reason, and to seeing things intuitively in their true relationships. Now, by the time we reach the monadic plane, the oneness factor has really taken over, and one can look in all directions and see the same. But Buddhi is the plane of harmony, and a Buddhic plane, and what has to harmonize is the colors and the sounds. And we have to see that in the light of pure reason. Okay, so that takes a lot of work, however, a preparatory work on the mental plane to make sure that we can really access at will this Buddhic plane. Every once in a while, something great happens in the astral body and you can jump over the mental plane. But we, as occultists in training, are meant to approach in a deliberate, scientific, and reliable manner. And he's teaching us how to do that. So yeah, we're after Buddhi, and more buddhi is filling the causal body, and when it finally fills it enough, the causal body gets destroyed. Buddhi, which is this great expansive love, is one of the chief destroyers of the egoic lotus causal body. It's very interesting. There's just not enough room for that kind of love in the causal body.
So thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. Okay, now let's see. Helen, do we have here? Yeah, well, that would be a question, wouldn't it? How do the physical diseases relate to the planetary logos as above, so below? Are the volcanoes, etc., illnesses of the planetary logos? I think those are two separate questions, because volcanoes are necessary and they're under the control of the Manu as he manipulates the Agni Chaitans of the etheric physical level. There are Agni Chaitans as well, of the atmic level, just like there are Agni Suryans, not only of the astral level, but of the Buddhic level. And then when you have the Agnishvatas, you're dealing with the mental plane, lower Agnishvatas and higher Agnishvatas. So volcanoes are not necessarily a sign of disease. They may even be the release of planetary pressure so that worse things do not happen. And remember, the Manu is in charge of raising and lowering continents. Well, one of the ways that the continents build up is through volcanic activity. Now, our planetary logos, what type of initiate is our planetary logos? In some strange way, he's kind of, if we compare him to a human being, he's kind of a Lemurian initiate, meaning that he's an etheric physical initiate, and he has great struggles with his cosmic astral body and has not yet achieved the stage of the Atlantean initiate. He has not yet achieved the second initiation in a cosmic sense. So these physical diseases are working out in the miasmas of the general etheric body of the planet. And due to the emotional turbulence of our planetary logos' astral body, which Venus has long before overcome, there's a lot of stuff that gets filtered, or should we say, or simply descends into the etheric body and causes all kinds of chaos. Now you have to add to this one more factor, that the Black Lodge, by deliberate choice, is working on the lower levels of the astral plane in a place, vibratory state called Mara Kara, the home of Mara or illusion. And so the deliberate agitation of the astral plane by these willfully recalcitrant forces is causing great disturbance within the astral body of our planetary logos. Now, that's at least on the cosmic physical plane. If we go higher into the cosmic astral body, there's still trouble, but there's lots of pure love, and it is a factor focused on the fourth subplane of the cosmic astral plane, moving towards the fifth. By the time the fifth subplane, let's see, I don't know if I can find this. Well, I don't know if I can. This chart is wonderful, but it doesn't have these. In some of our future charts, we're going to maybe make more delineations. But the cosmic astral body of our planetary logos is in disturbance, but the cosmic astral body of Venus is not. So we are still, as a planetary logos, planetary being, polarized on the fourth level, the conflicted level of the cosmic astral plane, and moving, if we can, towards the fifth, which will allow in a lot more soul energy correlated with the number 5. But Venus is already mastered the fifth subplane of the cosmic astral and is moving on to the sixth or Buddhic subplane of the cosmic astral, and the access of the cosmic Buddhic plane will be coming into Venus, is already coming into Venus, and so it's a more tranquil situation in the cosmic astral body. But you know, when you look at what's going on physically on Venus, I don't know how to describe it. It has huge temperatures. It's got great storms and violence on the physical level. It's very un-Venus-like. But suffice it to say, the physical diseases of our planet, a non-sacred planet right now, are due largely to the difficulty it is having on the cosmic astral plane and the work of the Black Lodge on the systemic astral plane, and even, in fact, members of the Cosmic Black Lodge are working on the cosmic astral and even above on the cosmic mental. So there's lots of disturbance which will be sorted out when our planetary logos takes its second cosmic initiation, and that's a long way ahead, a long way ahead. And it may be in the fifth round, you know, as far as the chain rounds are occurring. We just don't know, but it's millions of years ahead. Now, how about Gemini versus Virgo as regards to individual health as a result of the familial and humanities karma as expressed through our forms as being built from such? Well, you know, there is, I'm trying to see if I really understand your question here, such as waning versus merging and transmuting. Well, the waning in Gemini is useful because the light of the personality is overcome by the light of the soul, which carries health with it. So that's the Gemini approach. Now, the Virgo approach is a little more problematic because Virgo ruled the last half of the previous solar system and the very material element. So there's a strong transference of matter into our solar system from the original Virgo influence in the previous solar system. And that matter carries with it vibrations of the third aspect of divinity, which has to be reconditioned by the second. And a lot of the problem of disease is the battle between the second or love, wisdom aspect of divinity and the material aspect or the third aspect. And that's why in our own little case, when the soul really begins to pervade the personality and is not blocked by all kinds of material factors, then health supervenes. So on a larger scale, we have that big battle going on right on our planet. Second ray soul, third ray personality. It's the reconditioning of that material third ray by the love wisdom aspect. And we have that problem solar systemically. This is the second major solar system, the solar system of the sun, S-O-N. And the previous one had to do with a more material mental expression. Now you get those two things together, there's a big hangover. There's a big hangover from the previous solar system, and the matter of our solar system is still much conditioned by the previous third ray, and the great second ray soul of our solar logos has to recondition that. Okay, so waxing and waning, merging and transmuting. Feeling peace and love and health aside from the etheric mutation created by a mental and astral distortion. Okay, I'm just trying to, I think that I've answered it in the way that I can. We have to promote in our microcosmic self and upon the planet and later within the solar system, the rising up in power of the second aspect of love wisdom, which will recondition the tendencies of the third aspect of divinity. And whatever we feel in the astral body, it's good if it's good, but it's got to descend into the etheric body and recondition the patterns of the etheric body so they reflect the higher archetypes. A lot of people feel very good about something, but in terms of their actions, they just can't live up to what they feel. So we have to be through and through integrated. from the soul to the mind to the astral to the etheric to the physical, top to the bottom, crown center to the base of the spine. That type of integration and flow is our objective, and eventually even the monad, from the monad to the base of the spine, that kind of integration and flow are needed. So I think that's probably all I can answer about that. Helen, if you have anything further that you want to say about it, just let us know. Okay. Okay, is there anybody who would like to say something further?
Yes, Michael, you have a hand up, and you also have a couple of more comments in the. You got several hands up. Ario and Alexandra. And,
okay, very good. Thank you, BL. Okay, so I'm at the top here. So Alex, Alexandra, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I have a question about perception. When do we, at what stage do we achieve perfect and true perception? What stage do we perceive perfectly? Because everyone perceives differently, and part of observing our glamours is seeing how your perception is conditioned by so many things and trying to drop that and go beyond it. But I often think there must be a one.
Yeah. Well, you know, there is a city. There's a city on the atmic plane called perfection, and it is the fourth subplane of the atmic plane. But I want to say, you know, this is an interesting question, because DK says that all the beings on the cosmic physical plane, man particularly, is subject to illusion until the ninth initiation. You know what I mean? So this is a problem, and that means that even these very high states of elevated perception are all we can call lessening illusion, reduced illusion. So, you know, I want to say that when you use a word like perfection, it has to be related to a particular grouping, because the perception of the planetary logos is very benighted compared to the perception of the solar logos, and on and on and on. So the perfection, the final perfection, if I can take it that far, has to do with the self, it has to do with the self-perception of the universal deity, universal logos. Now, to be a little more practical about it, when you get rid of the causal body at the fourth initiation and you are very much in touch with the nature of the monad that is samadhi and is identification and all of that, a great deal of additional perfection is added, with the causal body no longer, how do they call it, distorting, what refracting. You know, what is it when you see a stick in the water and then you look underwater and it seems to bend? So it's kind of a refraction. Yeah. So that causal body is responsible for some kind of spiritual refraction. And by the time we reach the fourth degree, we are stepping into, because the number 4 is correlated with perfection, a great deal of clear-eyed vision. As he says about the fourth degree, he said it to someone who thought he was approaching the fourth degree. He said it is approached clear-eyed and by one who really sees. But as long as there is a monadic vehicle, the temple of Ezekiel, and it has not been destroyed, there's some kind of greater refraction operating until that destruction, and on and on. So it depends on what we want to call perfection. I would say this, that for most of us who are bewildered by the dense physical body of our planetary and solar logos down here, the dense physical body, by the time we reach the fourth initiation, a certain excellence of perception, which we did not have before, and which is based upon contact with the monad, supervenes. That's not the end of the story, but at least it's a practical goal.
Oh, wow,
Well,
thank you.
it's a big
So
picture.
until then, we can only say, this is to the best of my
yeah,
perception,
given my present state
which
of
isn't
ignorance,
very good.
this is how I perceive it. You know what I mean? But
I perceive it.
but and as sure as we may think about something, every truth based upon what we think we're perceiving gives way to a greater truth and to more accurate perception. So we'll hold the relativism of all of this in our thought. Okay.
Thank you.
You bet, Alex. Okay. Now let's see here. Ario, hold on. And there you go. Okay, Ario, go ahead.
Okay, in the beginning you mentioned the Justification Day. Could you tell how DK has described this idea?
Okay, well, the Judgment
Day, sorry.
Judgment Day, in a way, the justification of all the work that we've been through. He says it comes in the fifth round. We're only in the fourth, so it's millions of years ahead. And he says that at that time, the earth will have on it and within it only those human beings who are on the path or higher, up to the sixth or seventh initiation. So now I've just been reading, it's really interesting. The path per se does not begin until the first initiation. That is the technical description of the path. So initiates of the first all the way to the sixth or seventh initiation will be the only people who will be on the planet at that time, and the others will be sent to other parts of the planetary scheme or the solar system for re-education. I mean, either making their concrete mind less concrete or adding to their mental capacity. But all human beings uh, below the first degree will not be on the planet, or at least at least the probationary path. So sometimes the first degree is considered the probationary path until you become an accepted disciple, and so that is a judgment. That means a judge decides these are the goats; they stay on the planet. So you can imagine Capricorn is really going to be important, and these are the sheep. They leave the planet. And that will mean that the sacredness of our planet will really go forward, because the retarding effect of those human beings who are not spiritual will be reduced because they've been sent elsewhere. So that is the judgment. And he says, oh, there's some kind of thing, some huge battle that's going on at that time, of which our present possible Armageddon is just a little anticipation of that. It's going to be nothing compared to what that is when that happens. So that's what I recall that he says about the Judgment Day. And I'll tell you what, if you want to get those AAB extracts that I pulled together, I think I have a lot of references on the Judgment Day, Day of Judgment, so you would find out more. But look, it's not about people staying in the grave, and then when the trumpet blows, the bodies rise up from the grave and they are restored, to heaven or whatever it is, or judged by God and you go to hell or you go to heaven. It's nothing like that. The occult view is much more sophisticated and astronomical, you might say. It has to do with our solar system and our planet and big things like that. So that's what I would say about it for the moment. And if we're patient, we'll hang in there and we'll see what it's like. Okay. Or we may already be, we may have already left the planet, But anyway, it's coming. And the sacredness of our planetary logos occurs at the fifth initiation. Now, a kind of fifth initiation of a minor kind, I think, is going to occur on the Judgment Day.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, it's it's some thoughts in that direction. Right, all right. So now, BL, what am I missing? Anybody else there? Okay.
Yeah, I think you still have some comments you haven't looked at, some
Okay.
questions.
Okay, let's see where I would go for that. Now, maybe I would go, right, here it is. So, John, okay. Now, what are we saying? This is all John. So I was reading some of your stuff earlier. I thought it belonged to Helen. Sorry. But anyway, I answered a little bit about Gemini and Virgo. There is etheric mutation and difficulty, and it's related to a turbulent, unharmonized astral body. The health should begin to be better when the love energy is flowing through the astral body. So created by mental and astral distortion, and which still remains until transmuted. Okay. Okay, I'm just trying to really. John has gone, I think. But whatever, we'll look at his question. Whenever we finally transmute it, we may have to refeel the condition in order. Okay, so this is some psychology. In order to consciously shift it, and this shift also helps not only the individual, but also his groups, especially if it is working to refine the cellular mechanisms of which our physical etheric bodies are the result. Well, John he's a medical doctor, and so he seems to be having that particular perspective. There's four things that have to happen. The very first is transmutation, and it affects the quality of matter. Then there is transformation, referring particularly to the astral body and bringing it more in line with the soul and the higher archetypes. Then there is transfiguration, which elevates the entire personality so that it becomes the true instrument of the soul from top to bottom. And then, coming later, and maybe at the fourth degree, we have something called translation, which is a direct contact with the intuitive Buddhic plane. So I'm having a little trouble making out everything here that John has, but basically we have to have that sequence in mind. The whole idea of refeeling something once we transmute it. Well, when it comes along, it will never have the same power over us as it had before. We can adopt the attitude of the observer. We can know what it's like, but we are not the victim of those things which have been transmuted in our nature. Okay, and here it is, Anne, thank you. It's page 622, Emotion and Feeling. So I'll tell you what, I hesitate now.
Michael, I
Yes?
put that in the chat box so everybody can look at it.
Okay, they can look at it. Fantastic. Well, okay, we'll go over that next time. Okay. Well, it's now too much and too late to do that. So, but we'll do it next time. And I just want to let's see here. Anything that I've missed to you? Is there anything that you would like to add to this discussion? I lost you over here on the other side, but I think I find you over here on this side if there is anything. But we have guests in the house, and so I think there's maybe I don't know if Tuija is there or not, possibly. Okay, and maybe not. Okay, right. Okay, friends. So that's our work for today, except for the most important part, which is the meditation. And now all I have to do is find it, right? Where is that? Okay, let's see. I think I can, if I work very hard, I'm going to find it. Okay, Glamour Project and formula for the dissipation of world glamour. Okay, so, we've talked about the fight, the battle, between the soul, the great healer, and the personality, the resistance for a great deal of its existence. Not everybody has a personality per se, yet alone an integrated personality, but on our planet, in our solar system, it's the battle between the two and the three. And as DK, he said, there was this disciple, a very good disciple, the first ray disciple, soul ray 1, personality ray 5, mind ray 4, astral body ray 2, physical body ray 3. And he said, look, you've got a problem. Your second ray astral body and your third ray physical body aren't really getting along. And it's very difficult to get those two rays to really work together. Okay. So, something for us to bear in mind, and that is our major task at this time, to get those two generic rays of our planet and even of our solar system, what with the hangover from the previous solar system and our present emphasis, 2 and 3, 2 and 3. And whatever our rays may be, we have the 2-3 problem. We have the second aspect in the soul, and we have the third aspect in the personality. How will these learn to cooperate? Are they cooperating in your life? And can you see that dweller on the threshold? Can you overcome it? Can I get rid of these illusions, misinterpretations, glamours, and chaos? Can we be rid of those things? Okay. All right, friends. Then we will go on and have a little meditation. And I want to thank you all for being here and hanging with us, So thank you. So this is the formula for dissipating world glamour, and we're working on the glamour of personality, and it fits very well with the subjects we have been discussing. So we'll be quiet for a minute and feel ourselves coming together in the silence. And now we're going to use the cross of protection, as this is maybe of all the work that was being done by his groups of 9, this was the most dangerous work, and the work to which some people succumbed because they didn't do it correctly. So this cross of protection, this cross of divinity, from the forehead to the chest to the eye, left eye, right eye. And so we think of the light as we draw the cross. As a soul, I work in light, and darkness cannot touch me. I take my stand within the light. I work, and from that point, I never move. So for yourself individually, the radiating cross for the group as a whole, the radiating cross and the determination to stand within the light, regardless of the swirl of glamour that you might encounter. Now, the three lights of matter, mind, and soul, we're going to bring them together on the mental plane, the vital light, the mental light, and the soul light. So let's lift the light of matter onto the mental plane imaginatively. And there it joins the light that our reasoning faculties can provide. Vitalized thought, two are one. Now we think in the direction of the soul, and we meditate on soul contact, and we seem to recognize our soul light somewhere above the head. The light of the soul for the individual and the group, and we bring it down. Imaginatively, we see the soul light descend and join on the mental plane the other two lights. The fusion of the two lesser lights with soul light. Three are one, three lights are one. On the plane of mind from which we can direct this triple light. And we're going to say together, followed by the sacred word, the following. The light is one, and in that light shall we see light. This is the light that turns the darkness into day. And remember that the type of light expressed through Scorpio is the light of day and is found on the intuitional plane. And that will dispel the darkness when combined with the light of the mind. Now, the formula. And the group will say together, visualizing the turning on of our searchlight the turning on of our searchlight onto the astral plane. The group searchlight, revealing and destroying as necessary. Radiance are we, and power. We stand forever with our hands stretched out, linking the heavens and the earth. The inner world of meaning and the subtle world of glamour. We reach into the light and bring it down to meet the need. We reach into the silent place and bring from thence the gift of understanding. Thus, with the light we work and turn the darkness into day. And now we strengthen our beam, imagining it to be strengthened by the will coming from the high sources. So our beam will be effective in destroying glamour, dissipating it, scattering it. And we say, with power upon its beam, the light is focused on the goal. And now we realize it's the glamour of personality we're dealing with, and we're going to utter these words of power. As we visualize the light penetrating into this glamour of personality and producing its weakening, its dissipation, even imaginatively its destruction. The power of our united light prevents the appearance of the glamour of personality. The power of our united light negates the quality of the glamour from affecting humanity. The power of our united light destroys the life behind the glamour. Now we're going to have that 5 minutes to work in our own way, in the silence and with, as DK says, intensity of purpose. And we see the work proceeding. No appearance of the glamour, negating the quality of the glamour, destroying the life, supporting the glamour. And all, all this can be summed up in the words of DK, where he says, take your eyes off the personal self. It's just an instrument. It's not what we are. And so together we withdraw the beam back onto the mental plane. We have done something of value, a little bit more weakening of the glamorous world, affecting so many who don't know they're being affected. We've done some work, and we continue to cleanse ourselves of the glamours which make us less effective, and we continue to work together to offer ourselves as a group, as an instrument for the carrying out of the hierarchical plans with respect to the very beginning of the dissipation of world glamour. We'll sound the Om 3 times, realizing that eventually the Maya, the glamour, the illusion will disappear, and the will of the soul, in line with the plan, will be done on our planet. Thank you very much for being here. And Olivia, Tuija, and I wish to offer our gratitude for your continuing cooperation in this effort. Tomorrow, we work with the soul of nations and emergencies as they may be found in the world. There's certainly a big emergency going on in Thailand right now, and the world prayers and resourcefulness are focused on those boys in that cave. You can only imagine yourself there as the weather closes in and oxygen runs low. And yesterday, even one of the experienced divers died in the process. Somehow there's a solution, and it is mobilizing world concern. It seems like a small thing in terms of all that may be happening, but the compassion, the love, the intelligence, the will is all being brought together. So, our prayers and the prayers of so many go with a successful solution of that problem that none of us would like to be in. I just read that sort of fifth ray soul, really Elon Musk. He's head of the Tesla group there. He has all kinds of new ideas about what to do, and may they be successful, and all of it is life-changing for sure. So join us tomorrow. Tuija will be giving that broadcast, and then on Sunday we'll let you know. Hopefully we can continue with the broadcast on attracting money for hierarchical purposes. We do have to travel. We'll just see what can be done, and we'll notify you one way or another what we can do. Thank you very much for your presence. Many blessings from all of us, and study hard, apply well, assimilate all you can. 2025 is coming. Okay. We will see you, and all the best to you.
Oh, Michael,
Yes.
I'm now unmuted.
Oh.
I tried to talk so many times.
Go ahead.
So anyway, I wanted to emphasize about Syria as well. Please come along tomorrow and meditate with us.
Okay, very good, Tuija. I kept on looking for you, but I couldn't see. So anyway, Syria is a big issue. There are many trouble spots in the world. We're going to do our best as kind of emergency workers behind the scenes. So thank you for reminding us of that. Okay? Thank you.